this video, I'm going to show you how to make a double pinch pot, and then you can make it into like a fruit or a vegetable, that kind of thing. So for this video, you'll need some clay, kind of amount of clay that fits in your hand, your bamboo skewer, a brush, your slip, which you should have already made in a previous video, and some canvas. So first of all, with the bamboo skewer, I want you to put some tape around it on this end with your name. So I just have some masking tape here. I'm going to make like a little flag. So I'm going to not put it at the end because I'm going to use the end for a pattern in a later project. So I want that part to have a little room, and I'm just going to pinch it over and match it. You can either cut it off or tear it off. And then with some sort of permanent marker or like a ballpoint pen, you're going to write your name. So if I find it on the ground, I know who to give it to. Okay, so that's you can keep that on your shelf. You're just going to use a paintbrush from the communal paintbrushes and your slip. And so you want to start by prepping your surface. You want to use your canvas mat, and you're going to take your clay that fits in your hand, and you want to divide it into about 2 equal parts. I just kind of go like that. It's about equal, doesn't have to be perfect. And you're going to make 2 pinch pots. So I've made a video already on how to make a pinch pot. So I'm not going to go through a tutorial. You should have already made one in class. So you can just watch me make my 2 pinch pots. I'm trying to make them about equal, and I want to make the lips even so that they will meet up. So once I've had my 2 pinch pots, I kind of want to make sure they're about the same size so that the 2 lips can meet. And I don't want to bang them on the table or anything. They should stay pretty round at the bottom. And the next thing is I'm going to do slip, score, and blend, and that's how we're going to attach them. So they're going to go together like this. So anytime you put 2 pieces of clay together, you want to slip, score, and blend. Okay, so your skewer is going to be your scoring. I guess it's score, slip, and blend. And the idea is that we're roughening up the surface to create more surface area, so that when we put the 2 pieces together, they will kind of lock together. I'm not doing it too deep, but they're going to kind of have rough surface and rough surface, and when I squish them together, they're going to lock together like that. It's going to make a strong, secure joint. Okay, so they're both scored. I'm going to take out my slip, and you might need to shake it a little bit. You could also stir it with your skewer if it's a little chunky. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of the slip with my finger, just smooth it on in the surface. It's kind of like the ceramic glue. And I'm going to hold them both in my hands and put some gentle pressure and until they all meet. Kind of give it a little wiggle to get it. Okay, and now there is trapped air inside here, which is going to be helpful in a few steps later. I'm just drying off my hands. I want dry hands for the blending. So what we want to do with the blending is we want to hide this seam. And so I'm going to take my fingers and with my thumb, I'm going to go across like this. And sometimes if I go across like this, I can go back like this. So kind of makes an X. Okay. So we're filling in that gap and blending it together. And when you're done, you shouldn't be able to tell where the seam was, okay, if you've done a good job. And we still have that air trapped in here. So now that we have the air trapped in here, we can use our hands to shape it gently, and we can make whatever shape we want. You could make a cube, you could make a football shape, but today I'm going to make a pinch pot pumpkin for you. Normally in the fall we make pumpkins because it's fall time. You could also make um, any kind of fruit or vegetable that's kind of round. I have an apple here that a student made in this manner. I have a pear that's unglazed, and then there's like a little worm coming out of the pear. And here is like a student's pumpkin. Okay, so you can be creative. You can make whatever you want. I'm going to show you how to make a pumpkin. If you don't know what to make, you can make a pumpkin. Okay, so with a pumpkin, I'm kind of making it a little bit squatter this way, right? And pumpkins are great because they're not perfect. Uh, if you go to the store or you walk in a pumpkin patch, they grow all sorts of ways. Some of them are orange, some of them are not. Some of them are um, smooth, some of them are rough, some of them have bumps and warts. All sorts of pumpkins. So all that is just to say you don't have to make it perfect. Okay, so I'm just kind of gently tapping until I get the shape that I want. I'm also kind of smoothing a little bit. If there is an area that is getting a little bit dry, you can, I would probably take your slip. Just take a little bit and rub it in, but really you don't want too much water in this step. So unless it's dry, I would not add any moisture to it. Okay, the next step is I'm going to just gently, very, very gently tap it on my canvas to get a flat bottom so that it won't roll anymore. Okay, so I'm starting to make a flat bottom here. A gentle tap, kind of turn as I go. We don't want the bottom to be really wide. We still want it to kind of curve underneath. So gentle. And then we're going to take either a skewer or sometimes the handle of a paintbrush works really well for this. So we kind of want to create these indents here. So I just start at the top and I just roll a paintbrush and I'm looking to actually indent it. So you can see I'm doing it a couple of times. Okay, so I have my basic um, indentations. I want to make them a little bit smoother, so I want to go over with a dry finger, kind of smooth it out. And consider all the surfaces, so even the bottom here. And here's where if you don't like the lumpy part of the um, pumpkin, you can make it more smooth. But I really want you to consider all the surfaces and don't just use this and be done because it does not have a really nice texture and it looks very rushed. Right here, I want to indent more. So I'm going to push down more, trying not to break it through. There we go. It's a little bit deeper there. Just getting a little dry, so I add just a tiny, tiny bit of water. You'll notice I'm holding it in my hand, and that is because I don't want this canvas texture. We use the canvas for a lot of good reasons, but we don't want that canvas texture. It can just make your project not realistic, okay? Because that's not what pumpkins have on them. Okay, so and I'm going to kind of reestablish the bottom here. I am tapping on the canvas, so it will have a little canvas texture on the bottom, but that won't be anything that a viewer can see. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my pumpkin there, and I'm going to go get a little bit of more clay, and I'm going to show you how to do the stem. Okay, so I have a little bit of extra clay here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it into a small coil, and this is even too much. I'm just going to roll it between my hands. If you want, you can roll it on your mat, and that's too long, so I just want a nice short stem here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pat the bottom here because I want kind of this area here so that I can slip and score and blend. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to kind of mark where I want to slip and rough up that surface. A lot of students have their stem come off, and it's because they're not slipping and scoring correctly. So Make sure you pay attention. It needs to be rough here, and it needs to be rough here. Okay, I can just take a little bit of the slip, add it on there, give it a firm press. A little wiggle. Okay, and I'm going to blend this in. And so I'm going to use my finger to pull the clay down and blend the seam out. And if you'll notice, I'm holding it in my hand again. But we don't want to see where we attached the clay. We just want it to look like the stem just grew right out of the pumpkin. Okay, looks pretty good here. Let me fix this area right here. It's starting to get a little dry. I can add little bits of my slip water, but not a lot. Okay, and then this stem here, I'm just kind of pinching as I go up. Sometimes it's good to make a little twist. Can curve. Starting to crack. So when I see those little tiny cracks, I'm just going to add a little bit of moisture in there. Let the moisture sink in. We don't want any cracks here. Considering all the different surfaces. Pretty good to me. All right. And then the last few things you need to do is we have trapped air in here, which means there's air that can't get out. And when air is in the kiln, it heats up. Well, what happens to hot air? It expands. And so if there is air trapped in here, when the air expands, it's going to push on the edges of the wall. And the force of that expansion is so powerful compared to the strength of these walls that it will blow open. Okay, kind of like in a little explosion. So we want to prevent that because an explosion in the kiln not only affects your piece, but all the pieces next to it. So we're going to take our skewer, and on the bottom, we're going to make a nice, pretty big hole. So not just poking it in and out, but also expand that hole so that all the air can escape. Just kind of smooth it out. Flatten it one more time. And then you want to put your name or your initials pretty deep. And then you want to put your period number because I find sometimes I have students with the same period number. So you could just put P and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. I'll just put 2. And then this stays on your shelf until it's completely dry and until we have a or a bisque kiln. Right? So that is your project for today. A pinch pot, you can make a pumpkin, an apple, anything that has two pinch pots put together, fruit or veggie. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.